Joining us now is I don't know if I've actually ever had her on. I've been on with her. Yeah, I know she's got like a brand new venture that she's doing and very nice digs. We're going to talk about that. But my friend Liz Wheeler, birthing person Liz Wheeler, looks fantastic. She joins me now via technology. It's so good to have you, Liz. Good to see you. Congrats on the podcast. And I don't think we had you on to talk about the book, but yeah, exactly. But congrats. It's good to see you.
Thanks so much, Dana. It's so good to be here.
Birthing person, I have to ask you about this because this language was revealed in the $6 trillion budget yesterday. So here's my question. Why is it that we have to give up women or mother or mothering, but men, there's nothing for men. It's always the men who want to identify as women, but what do men give up? Why are women do we have to sacrifice how we recognize what our sex is?
You know, when I was in grammar school and we were going through the module on writing essays and vocabulary and being clear with your writing, we were taught that if there's a phrase that can be condensed into a very specific word, if the particular word is the most precise possible, that's what you should use. So I have a suggestion for the writers of this budget because it's so many pages of garbage. Why don't you condense the phrase birthing person into a more precise word, that word being woman?
That works perfect. I like that. Or mother as well, mothering as well. That just doesn't. We were talking about that and the whole taxation issue, but I saw that and I forgot everything else that I was reading about in his budget because that I found was so offensive. If you're going to take my tax money, at least recognize that I'm a chick. Recognize that I'm a woman, that I am a girl, I'm a female, I'm not a birthing person. Because I pay my fair share, Liz, as I know you do as well, to be able to be recognized how we are scientifically.
Right. I mean, all jokes aside, in all seriousness, it's misogynistic of Biden to, and all of the different radical leftists. It's not just Biden who are using this phrase birthing person. It's misogynistic. It's anti-woman. This has been the foundational principle of radical feminism from the beginning. It's this self-loathing. They don't like being women. They're trying to ape men. They're trying to put aside the biological differences between men and women. They degrade the differences, make it seem like women are less because we are smaller and softer. And I say that tongue in cheek. Because
some of us
there
are
are biological
softer.
Differences. Radical feminists don't like that.
Right.
They don't like that. So they've been trying to eliminate women from the very beginning by degrading the choice of some women to stay home, right? This is what I tell young women that I talk to all the time, that feminists didn't just say, listen, women should be able to choose whether they want to be stay-at-home moms or whether they want to have a career or some hybrid of both. No, radical feminists at the beginning shamed women who stayed home and said, you aren't reaching your potential. Your dignity and your value is worth how much the paycheck that you bring in is. So they actually degraded women's choice and told them there was only one acceptable choice. They've been trying to erase women for a long time now, and Joe Biden's just continuing that legacy.
Yeah, I remember Linda Hirschman, this was, I think, in the aughts, like the late aughts, had said at one point that women who are college educated, if they choose to stay home with their children, that they are, her phrase was, betraying their sex. It was a direct quote. And nobody knows who Linda Hirschman is anymore because...
So insulting.
Yeah, because it's insulting, and that's like such... I mean, if you want to have a discussion about bigoted sexist thinking, that would be it completely. I have to get your reaction, too. We played this mashup, this montage of sound bites as we were coming in. We're talking to Liz Wheeler. She has a new podcast, by the way, LizWheelerShow.com. And now it's apparently Trump's fault somehow. Somehow it's got to be Trump's fault. Because the media was unable, Liz, to investigate this lab leak theory, which honestly doesn't seem like a theory anymore, especially when you read all of the conclusions from all of these world-renowned scientists, virologists, microbiologists who say there's a definite fingerprint here. There's something that is not natural within natural evolution. But now apparently it's somehow Trump's fault that the press nobody stopped them from investigating this. Wasn't it? I mean, Liz, I'm old enough to remember when the press said it was bigoted to even question so much as a relationship between the Wuhan Institute of Virology and this pandemic. So now why is this Trump's fault? Confused.
Well, everything in the world and in the history of the world, even before Trump, is Trump's fault, just so we can fully understand the leftist thinking here. Everything bad that's ever happened to mankind, Trump's fault. If we just can get on board with that, we'll understand the world better. But I have an idea. Let's look at Dr. Fauci's own words in his emails to determine whether or not he was allowed to talk about this publicly or whether the Trump administration somehow shut down his discussion. Well, a woman emailed him at one point and asked him, or made a comment. She made a comment in her email asking him to tell her the truth because she claimed the vice president, who was, of course, in charge of the White House coronavirus task force, she claimed the vice president was stifling him and preventing him from saying what he wanted to say in public. He corrected this woman in his response to her email saying, actually, I've never been stifled at all. I'm allowed to say whatever I say, and I go on TV and I say whatever I want to say. So when the press is making this claim, Dr. Fauci's countering the claim, and they claim that Fauci's God and always tells the truth. So
Right.
I would love to hear some justification of that.
Yeah, he was obviously telling the truth there. He was being very honest about it, and I guess now that they don't want to listen to him with us. So that's really honestly the big problem looking at foreign policy and looking at China's involvement in this, because we're dealing with a geopolitical threat. Even though I know that the previous administration to former President Trump's administration did not think so. Joe Biden, though, he's getting ready to meet with Putin. They're kind of mocking him, so much, getting ahead of preparing for this meeting. I know in China they've kind of been doing the same. They are mad. They've expressed anger because some senators have gone to Taiwan to establish or have their regular meetings ahead of the normal trade relationship that we enjoy with Taiwan. But I'm looking at a couple of different articles that get into how would Joe Biden even react if, yes, the United States has to officially conclude that this was a lab leak and the malicious way in which China handled it, assuming the worst, saying it was a bioweapon. Honestly, Liz, what would this administration couldn't handle it? I don't even know what their response would be.
Well, we're already hearing Dr. Fauci peddling what the response would be. He's setting the stage for what the narrative of the Biden administration is going to be. And his narrative is, well, it's important to do a thorough investigation to find out what the origin is so that we can prevent it the next time. So basically, that's literally, and mark my words, this will be the narrative of the Biden-Harris administration, that it's important to know so that we can prevent it next time. They're going to paint it as a huge accident. And Dana, do you know what's going to happen? Suddenly this pandemic is going to be over, because the only narrative, the only stories that people are going to care about are going to be Fauci's corruption, the gain-of-function experimentation that our tax money funded, the cover-up that was staged by Fauci and his ilk, the anti-science rhetoric coming from the scientific community, and Biden's complicity in all of this. So like this, all of a sudden, the pandemic's going to be over and we're going to be on to the next thing because it's not advantageous to them anymore.
No, not at all anymore. And yet I liked what Trump said the other day when he said, well, China actually owes us reparations. If we're going to have a discussion about reparations, China owes us money for all of the damage that they've done, not just to the United States, but to the rest of the world. Liz, I think a year of life that kids have lost. People who were not able to be with their loved ones when they passed away. Though a family, I think of just there's so many people who sacrificed so much in this past year and a half, and at the very least, we should be able to obtain from our government that we fund some kind of clear and concise answer as to how this happened, so that we can avoid it again. But the press and it really does seem like the administration now treats it as though the only reason that we're interested in learning why and the hows is because we want to get even. I think that's kind of a projection on their part, though, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't trust the government to tell me the truth at this point. They've spent the last year and a half lying to us all. I think the only way we're going to find out the truth is if we do what we do, and that is investigate the truth. If we get these emails from FOIA, like so many people, not even right-wing people did. I mean, some of these emails were obtained by BuzzFeed and the Washington Post, not what you would describe as your right-wing outlets or sympathetic to President Trump or anti-Biden or any of the above. We're going to have to investigate it, but we have to make sure that people understand. You and I and a small fraction of other people have been saying these things for the past year, over a year and a half now. You and I and a small fraction, a small group of other people have said from the beginning, this looks like it might have been a lab leak. The science shows that there's a sequence in the genome that shows that it's manipulated. The science shows masks don't work. The science shows lockdowns don't work. Not even taking into account whether government officials have a right to do that to us. It simply practically, scientifically doesn't work. And we're being vindicated time and time again. So the American people should realize your politicians and your public health officials, they have been leading you down a path of lies. And you should listen to the journalists and the commentators who've been showing you the facts and showing you the evidence that proves that the facts are true.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Now, we were cast as bigots and xenophobes and racist and whatever, icket, whatever they wanted to attach to it, simply because we were questioning the absolute obvious. I mean, it's like Occam's razor here. I mean, it was so incredibly obvious, and that you can't even have a question about this is what happened to genuine general inquisitiveness, curiosity, the freedom to ask a question and just engage in an honest clash of ideas and to pose a hypothesis. You know, Liz, the thing that really floored me, I mean, there was a lot that really floored me with not just the Vanity Fair piece and Fauci's emails, but particularly the Vanity Fair piece, was Robert Redfield, who said that he had received death threats, not from Twitter trolls or YouTube commenters or anyone else, but other scientists, simply because he was proposing a hypothesis. So now our Twitter trolls are the scientists that are making determinations about serious issues like this. That was terrifying to me. Other scientists. He's like, I expected it from politicians, but not other scientists. My mind's blown. That's terrifying.
Well, it's actually like a reverse, right? Where the people on Twitter, the Twitter trolls, if you will, are the ones who are doing the actual science, the actual journalism, the actual reporting. And the scientists and the reporters are peddling garbage up to the point, as you said, of issuing threats here. It's remarkable. I mean, it just reminds me, and I don't think anybody feels comfortable in the position, but it just reminds me that no matter what kind of institution or position of authority is giving you guidance or giving you rules or telling you something is fact, you have to question that. You have to question them as a person. You have to question their motives. You have to question professional organizations. You have to even question science, because science is corrupted by ideology and politics, including studies and people who organize articles to be published in journals because they want to cover their own trail of funding, from the NIH all the way to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. You have to question everything.
It's good. We should be healthy skeptics. That's how it was supposed to be in the first place. Last thing for you, Liz, you have a new podcast, and I was making sure that I had, because I have it down here. I already scrolled because I was looking at this other article, LizWheelerShow.com. I think that now our new legacy press, our fourth estate and the fifth pillar would say that you're just misinformation. But honestly, that's one of the reasons why digital media has been so successful, and there are so many people in it, because the people that we used to invite to our homes to share with us information as to what our government was doing, as you just were talking about, they can't be trusted. I mean, neither can our government, but the people that are supposed to be the watchdogs for it can't be trusted either. So tell me real quick about your new podcast, and congrats on that, because I know everybody watched you and got introduced to you on OAN. Now you're going to the next level. You're doing your own thing. Tell us a little bit about that and what they can expect.
Yeah, definitely. So everyone can find the show at LizWheelerShow.com. It's available on all podcast platforms. I encourage you to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, because that helps us move up the charts, which helps more people discover us, which helps more people hear reality. In regards to the misinformation claim, I always say, if there's an error that I've made, let me know and I'll retract that. But if you're going to claim that I'm lying, you show me proof very specifically what you're talking about, because you can't. The only thing that you can do is you can issue fake fact checks like Facebook does, and everybody knows that those are lies. Everybody knows that I'm just presenting reality in a concise, in a blunt, in an unapologetic way. That's what we're going to do on the podcast. We're also going to provide action items, because so often I think conservatives tend to whine amongst themselves about the assault the radical left is levying on our nation, but they don't give action items for other people. What can we do in between casting our ballot every 2 or every 4 years? I provide action items on how to fight back on these cultural wars so that we can win once we get to the actual political realm. So please subscribe. I appreciate when you do, and let me know what you think.
There you go, right there. More voices, not fewer voices. Liz Wheeler, LizWheelerShow.com. Good to see you. It's good to see you. I'm glad you were able to join me, and I'll talk with you again soon. I know I'll see you on Twitter.
Thanks so much, Dana. I appreciate it.
Of course. Take care.